I started babysitting when I was 15. My neighborhood was full of young families, and word got around fast that I was reliable, so by the time I was 17, I had a regular rotation of houses. Most nights were easy. Kids fed, kids bathed, kids in bed by 9, and I'd sit on the couch doing homework until the parents got home. This story is about the one night that wasn't easy. The one night that made me quit babysitting for good. The family was new to the neighborhood, a single mom named Carol with a 6-year-old son named Tobias. Sweet kid, a little quiet, but sweet. Carol worked nights at a hospital about 40 minutes away, so this wasn't a date night babysitting gig. This was overnight, from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'd never done an overnight before, but the pay was good and Carol seemed nice, so I said yes. The first few overnights were completely normal. Tobias would go to bed around 8, I'd watch TV, fall asleep on the couch, and wake up before Carol got home. Easy money. It was the fourth overnight when things started to feel wrong. I put Tobias to bed like always, but before I left his room, he grabbed my wrist. He asked me if the other lady was going to sing to him again. I laughed it off and asked what other lady. He said the lady who stands in the hallway at night and hums. I told him that was probably just a dream, tucked him in, and shut the door. I want to be honest, that gave me a weird feeling in my stomach, but I chalked it up to a kid having a nightmare. Around midnight, I heard humming. It wasn't loud, it was faint, like it was coming from somewhere deep in the house, maybe upstairs, maybe the hallway outside Tobias's room. I sat up on the couch and just listened for a solid minute. I told myself it was a pipe, or the fridge, or my own imagination playing tricks because a 6-year-old had put the idea in my head. I got up, walked down the hallway, checked Tobias's room. He was fast asleep. I checked the bathroom, the linen closet, even Carol's bedroom. Nothing. I went back to the couch and didn't sleep the rest of the night. I didn't say anything to Carol the next morning. I felt stupid. What was I going to say, your house hums? But 2 overnights later, it happened again, and this time it wasn't humming. This time I woke up because I heard Tobias's door creak open. I opened my eyes just enough to see through my eyelashes without moving. I saw a shape cross the hallway from Tobias's door toward the bathroom. It wasn't Tobias. It was taller, adult height. I froze completely. I didn't breathe. The shape stood in the bathroom doorway for what felt like forever, and then it just wasn't there anymore. I didn't hear footsteps. It didn't walk away. It was just gone. I grabbed my phone and texted Carol immediately, asking if anyone else had a key to the house. She didn't answer until almost 5 in the morning, and when she did, she said, "No, absolutely not. Why?" I told her I thought I heard someone in the house. She came home early and we searched everything together. Doors locked, windows locked, nothing missing. That should have been the end of it, but Carol got quiet after we searched the house. She sat me down at the kitchen table and told me something she probably should have told me before I ever agreed to overnights. The house had belonged to an elderly woman who died in the upstairs bathroom. Carol got the place well under market value because of it, and the real estate agent had mentioned, almost as a joke, that some buyers considered it a problem. Carol didn't believe in that stuff. She needed a house she could afford. I want to tell you, I never went back, and part of that is true. I never did another overnight there again. But I did agree to one more evening shift, just until 10 p.m., because Carol was desperate and I felt bad. That night, Tobias asked me the question that ended everything for me. He asked very casually while eating his cereal if I had met his other babysitter yet. I asked what he meant. He said the lady comes when I'm asleep, she watches me, and last night she asked him if he wanted to come see her upstairs. I called Carol immediately and told her I couldn't do this anymore. I never went inside that house again. Carol moved out about 8 months later. I don't know what happened in that house after that, and honestly, I don't want to know. I was 19, working my way through community college, and babysitting was flexible cash between classes. I'd been sitting for the Hendersons for almost a year. Twin girls, 7 years old, named Ruby and Wren. Genuinely one of the best gigs I ever had. The girls were funny. The parents paid on time, and the house had good Wi-Fi. This story starts on a completely ordinary Friday night. The parents left around 6 for a work dinner, said they'd be back by 11. Standard routine. Dinner, bath, one episode of a cartoon, bed by 8:30 since it was a school night the next day. Ruby and Ren shared a room. Bunk beds, Ruby on top, Ren on the bottom. I did the usual routine, tucked them in, read half a chapter of a book, and left the door cracked like they liked it. Around 9, I was on the couch watching something on my laptop with headphones in, which in hindsight was a mistake because I wasn't paying attention to the house at all. I only looked up because I felt like someone was standing behind me. Nobody was there. I told myself it was nothing, took my headphones out just to be safe, and kept watching, volume low. About 20 minutes later, I heard Ren crying softly from the bedroom. I went in to check on her. She was sitting up in her bottom bunk, and when I asked what was wrong, she said the boy in Ruby's bed wouldn't stop staring at her. I looked up at the top bunk. Ruby was sound asleep, alone, exactly where she should be. I told Ren it was just a dream and she needed to go back to sleep. She shook her head and said, "No, not a dream. He was there again. He's always in Ruby's bed when Ruby's not looking." I didn't think much of it that night. Kids say weird stuff, especially twins. They bounce ideas off each other and it snowballs. But 2 weeks later, I was back at the house. Different night, and Ruby brought it up completely unprompted. She told me while I was making them grilled cheese that her friend from the top bunk didn't like me. I asked who her friend was. She said she didn't know his name. He just shows up sometimes and lays next to her. And he told her that the lady who watches the house at night doesn't like when I'm there late. That one got under my skin. Not because a kid said something creepy. Kids say creepy things all the time, but because Ruby used a very specific phrase. The lady who watches the house. That's oddly specific phrasing for a 7-year-old to invent on her own. I mentioned it to their mom, carefully, framing it as funny kid stuff rather than anything serious, because I didn't want to sound insane. She laughed it off at first, but then her face changed, and she told me something I didn't expect. Before they bought the house, the listing agent had mentioned that the previous family moved out unusually fast, within 4 months of buying, and never gave a clear reason. She'd never looked into it further because the price was too good to pass up and she didn't want to know. The night that made me stop babysitting there happened about a month after that conversation. I was sitting on the couch around 11, waiting for the parents to get home, when I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate, one at a time, crossing from one end of the hallway to the other. I froze because I knew both girls were asleep. I'd checked on them 20 minutes earlier. I sat perfectly still and listened to those footsteps cross the hallway 4 separate times before they stopped. I never went upstairs to check. I sat on that couch with my phone in my hand, ready to call 911 until the parents walked through the front door at 11:15. I told them everything. The mom didn't look surprised. She just nodded slowly and said she'd heard it too, more than once, and that she and her husband had actually started sleeping with their door locked. I finished out that school year with them because I genuinely loved those girls, but I never took another night shift past 9 p.m. again. Last I heard, the Hendersons moved out of state about 2 years ago. I don't know if it was because of the house. I never asked. This happened when I was babysitting for a family I'll call the Coopers. 2 kids, a 9-year-old boy named Owen, and a 4-year-old girl named Nora. I'd sat for them maybe half a dozen times before this story, always in the early evening, home by 8 or 9 while the parents went out. This particular Saturday was different because the parents were going to a wedding 2 hours away and wouldn't be back until after 1 in the morning. Everything started fine. Dinner, cleanup, some cartoons, and both kids were in bed by 8:30 like usual. I settled onto the couch to study because I had a test coming up, and the house went completely quiet, the good kind of quiet. Around 10, Owen came downstairs. That wasn't unusual. 9-year-olds wander sometimes, so I told him to get back to bed. He didn't move right away. He stood at the bottom of the stairs and asked me if I'd locked the back door. I told him yes. I'd locked it right after his parents left, same as always. He said okay, but then added that I should check it again because the man likes to open it when nobody's watching. I felt a chill go straight through me, but I kept my voice calm and asked him what man he meant. Owen said very matter-of-factly that there's a man who comes into the kitchen sometimes at night, and he doesn't do anything. He just stands by the back door like he's waiting for someone to let him in. Owen said he wasn't scared of him anymore because the man had been coming for a long time and he never comes upstairs. I walked Owen back to bed, checked on Nora, who was fast asleep, and then went straight to the kitchen to check the back door. It was locked. I checked it twice. I sat at the kitchen table for a while, just staring at that door, feeling ridiculous, telling myself a 9-year-old's imagination was not a home security system. Around midnight, I heard a sound from the kitchen, a soft metallic click like a latch. I got up from the couch and walked toward the kitchen with my phone flashlight already on. The back door was still locked, deadbolt and all, exactly how I'd left it. But the kitchen chair, the one closest to that door, had been pulled out from the table. I know for a fact I hadn't touched it, and both kids were upstairs asleep. I stood in that kitchen for a long time, telling myself I must have bumped it earlier and forgotten. I pushed it back in and went back to the couch, but I didn't relax again for the rest of the night. I kept the TV on for noise and sat facing the hallway so I could see anyone coming down the stairs. At around 12:40, Nora started screaming. I ran up the stairs 2 at a time. She was sitting up in bed, hysterical, pointing at her closet door, which was standing wide open. She kept repeating that the man from downstairs came up to check on her. I checked the closet, checked under the bed, checked the whole room. Nothing. I got her calmed down enough to lie back down, left the hallway light on, and sat on the floor of her room until she fell back asleep, because there was no way I was leaving that room. When the Coopers got home a little after 1, I told them everything. The chair, the sound, both kids describing the exact same figure independently of each other. The mom went pale. She admitted that Owen had said similar things to her before, more than once, but she'd always assumed it was a phase, something kids his age go through. She said she'd never told me because she didn't want to freak out a sitter and lose me. I did one more shift for them after that during the day, and I never agreed to another night shift again. I found out through a mutual friend almost 2 years later that the Coopers had a priest come bless the house not long after that night. I don't know what he found or what he did, and honestly, some questions I've learned not to ask.